we will get officially started now after that silly prayer, but God knows us, right? All right. So I'm going to get started. I'm just going to share, because this is also being recorded. Welcome to anyone taking this class who is not here currently. That will be online. Watching it after the fact. I'm glad you're here. And I'm glad you guys are here. So I'm going to share some things about myself really quick just to get started. Most of you know my name is Angela Cook, and I am Pastor Mark Cook's wife, and I am the mother of 4 children. And right now they're home with their dad, so I could be here. So a little bit about my background with teaching. I was a school teacher for several years before I became a mom, but I've been home with my kids for the last 15 years. So this is my first time back in a classroom where I had to develop my own curriculum, my own lesson plans in a long time. So I have been doing some teaching with my children over the last 9 years, but I'm not in like a setting where, you know, that's more systematic. So I homeschool my children. So we do a lot of that. Yes, woohoo, homeschool. Woohoo. Today was actually the first day of school for homeschool families. Then let's see, I went to University of Central Florida. I graduated actually from Rockledge High School. I went to University of Central Florida and received a Bachelor in Arts of History with an education background. So I got a history degree because I wanted to teach history, and a long time ago they used to let you do that. Now they make you get an education degree and then subsidize that with something you enjoy teaching. So for me, I got a degree in history, and I taught that for several years, and also women's studies. So some of y'all are in good hands. Yeah, so my minor was in women's study and also in vocal performance. So I have a little bit of education in education. And so this is kind of my passion. I love teaching more than I probably love doing anything. So anyway, my history here at the church, I've been here about 15 years. We moved away for 4 years, and I know a lot of you already know this about me. We came home, and now we're back at East Coast Christian Center. So we officially say we've been at East Coast for 15 years because we really have been. Even while we were gone, we were still very connected here at the church. And I told you I have kids, I have a husband. Also about 1.5 years ago, my husband and I were both ordained as pastors at the church we were at in Knoxville. So that was kind of a new phase of life and a new calling God put on our hearts. And Taylor said something one day that was really just hit my heart. And she said, I want to celebrate what God's doing in your life. And so I just thought that was real sweet. Yes. And that really meant a lot to me. So that's kind of my first love, is just people and just enjoying people. So that's probably why I love teaching. So I hope tonight that we get to start off on a great foot when it comes to composition and writing. I know just from knowing some of you personally, you don't love writing. I won't call anybody out, but I already promised these people that I would totally change their minds before this 4 weeks is over, and that you will love writing because there's going to be something that I know is God-breathed that he puts on you. So English Composition 101 at East Coast Christian University is not going to be like your typical state school composition class. We are not going to go through the nitty-gritty rigmarole of all the rules and all of that. It's not that we don't think that's important. It is totally important, but you can Google almost anything you need to know about the writing process and get really good information. But if you don't love writing, you're probably not going to do that. Mm-hmm. And so my goal is to help you love writing and then give you a few tools and unleash you. Amen. And then you have all this time in the world to write papers for everybody, but how much nicer would it be that you actually enjoy doing it?
Exactly.
So my desire is to help you grow as a leader, and just looking around, a teacher. Like most of you most likely in some way are in a position where you're teaching people, you're leading people. I know you're at Erdman, you're leading people. And so you might not be in full-time ministry vocationally, but you're in ministry at your job. And so you're leading people. You have to write inter-office memos. You have to write a lot. And so just finding those little niches to help you guys be excited about writing. And to grow in God's word, not just the ability to write. So, God-centered learning, this is what I'm looking at, a more God-centered theme about learning, not just the rules of grammar or the rules of spelling. No, none of that. None of that. Pshaw. Yes, we're not going to do that. So, the first thing we're going to do is go through our syllabus really quick. Let me see, I'm just going to take one and pass it around. We're going to go over our syllabus. Real easy, nothing too intense, just my information is here. If you ever have any questions, just text or email me. You can text me at the, nope, you can't, I didn't put that number. You can call and leave a message. You can call and leave me a message at mine and Taylor's, our phone extension, right?
If you want her cell phone number, I'll give it to you later.
Yeah, I think almost everyone in here does, so yeah, just forward on. Dan Bushy might be the only person who doesn't, so you can send it to him. We're talking my cell phone.
Oh.
We were just laughing because I didn't put that on here. But you can call me, email me anytime. Okay, our course purpose. You will all be exposed to a new perspective and appreciation for the writing process. Use various technological tools to explore resources that assist in the personal writing process. Review various grammar language rules, very little, as well as formats of writing papers and essays. That's something important for ECCU. We just want to give you a foundation of how you need to write your papers from here going forward. Most of the instructors, Marv, they already know sort of where you're at with your writing skills and where the level of writing you're able to accomplish from the papers you've turned in so far. That's not a good or a bad thing. It's just we know where you're at, which is why he wants to have this as a foundational class. You guys blew him out of the water this year. He thought, holy goodness, no, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. He did not do that.
That's exactly why we're in this class.
I'm so kidding. That is not why at all. But it does help lay a foundation for your future writing here so that we're all on the same page and we don't have people handing in things one way or plagiarizing because you don't know that you did. You know, there are so many little things that we'll learn in terms of that. Number 4, student will understand and use writing strategies and processes to analyze and write about issues that are important to specific audiences and specific purposes. And specific audiences and purposes are something I'm really excited for us to kind of hone in on, and we'll do that as the weeks go on. And then to gain a strong awareness of your own development as writers. There is no book. You are not required to purchase a book. I have had this book for years. It was a book I was required to have in college. It's on the syllabus. It is really a good idea if you don't know where to go online. I like real books, like paper. So we have shelves full of these books, these things called books. Yeah. But you can find almost everything you need in here online also. I mean, there's so many resources online. But this is a great resource to have at home if you do decide to go further with your college education outside of East Coast University, all sorts of things. So this is a great resource. I do use it a little bit for some of the notes we'll be taking, but it's not required. Feel free to order one on Amazon if you feel like you'd like to have a resource at your fingertips. Okay. That. And then the course terms, I just want to go real quick so you kind of have an understanding. We're not going to do a ton of quizzes in here. Well, we might do some grammar quizzes. I might throw a few your way just for the fun of it. You have to attend all classes or listen to any missed classes, participate and engage in class discussions and peer activities, and complete weekly assignments and or quizzes, and complete a 2-page essay implementing practices learned during class. So the last assignment is going to be, I'm letting you know up front, the last assignment building on each week is going to be a 2-page essay. So we'll build though every single week to get to that point, and most of you have written 2-page essays, but this is going to be very specific. This is going to be very focused so that we can build the process of that 2-page versus just, hey, write a 2-page paper. Yep. Go for it. Yes, Christian.
I have a question, and I talked to Marvin. He said to bring up the first class, so for everybody to have a good chance. Is there going to be an opportunity for extra credit for people who want to bring their GP up even higher? So he said he wants to offer it, and typically it's something different to where you can do something outside of the class. So
extra credit, yeah.
Rap, and she wrote a rap and rapped it in the class. Or
Yeah.
She did. It was awesome about a boat.
She rocked it.
She did so good about a boat. And I've done drawings, like something different. It's cool. You'll never forget that rap.
I know.
And I'll never forget my drawings of, Jesus washing the disciples' feet. But something to think about.
It's a learning styles way to help people who, yes, absolutely.
Something different.
Yep. I will have to talk to Marv about it because
Cool.
he did mention it a little bit to me during my training
Yeah.
type thing. And then I'll be able to let you know what that would be next
Sweet.
week.
As long as I bring
even
it up
this
the
week.
first week, I've done my job, because he said you gotta do it right away so everybody's got a fair
Okay,
chance.
good idea.
Because I always wanted, and I think she does too.
Okay.
'Cause she wants that
Yep.
perfect 4.0.
And he did mention it, so I will ask him how he wants me to go about. I might be able to communicate what it will
I
be.
think we should do a drama.
Oh yes. There's again, writing is huge, so there may actually be something.
Something other than writing.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
I'll write a song.
Well, that's the thing. The basis of everything
Other
is
than writing, I
Words,
will write it.
words.
so.
Okay. So on that note, you'll be able to find all the percentages of like what everything is worth on the campus ISS, whatever it's called.
Campus sis.
Campus Sys.
IS will
It
get
always,
you there.
it always makes me think of ISIS.
Yes. So, Casey might have to help me a little bit. We just got my class set up. I don't know if I have all my percentages put in correctly. Girls, calm down. So, yes. All right, on to the next. We've talked about my family history, English 101, class input. Okay, so now, after all of that and introducing, I would like to do just some, like, get you guys interacting a little bit with me so I can get an idea of where you're at. So one method of kind of moving into learning something new is, you may have done this even in grade school, but it's a KWL chart. What do you know? What would you like to know, and what have you learned? So every week you're going to, and I'll write that on the board, every week you're going to report in on campus assistance. You're going to report in on the website something you've learned that week that you didn't know about writing, about the writing process, about God's word, about something silly, anything. It can be anything that you learned. I would like it to be educationally, rounded, but it might not be one week. So what we're going to do first, though, is we're going to I want everybody to tell me in one word. I want you to use one word and tell me what your perspective or your perception is of writing.
Do I
One
have
word.
to go first?
Okay. Paula can
Oh.
go first. Oh, no, Christian will go first. Go, Christian. One word only.
Legacy.
Legacy, good. Don't change your answer. What was the first word that came to your mind when it comes to the writing
Pain.
process?
Just kidding.
Yeah, no, really, pain. Thank you.
Okay.
It really was pain.
What else? Pain. Come on, I know somebody else. I know
I
you
have
have
one.
something.
Bleh.
Bleh.
Like BLEH.
Bleh.
A couple
I'm gonna
of
be that
H's.
person. Fun.
Fun.
Oh.
I'm with you, so it's okay.
Boring.
Boring.
I would say intimidating. I guess.
Intimidating.
that's-
I
that's
love
a
that word.
word.
Intimidating.
Yeah.
Just no.
No. Just no. Just no.
Not intimidating.
How
Just
about you,
no.
Paul?
I-
Anything?
Stressful.
Stressful. Okay. So if you notice, the majority of the words were negative, and they were. What's the negative? They just weren't positive. Some of them were truly negative. Others were just intimidating, stressful. What did you say?
Well, I said pain, but
Pain.
I really meant what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So boring.
Yeah.
Bleh. I mean, it doesn't get much worse than that. Legacy and fun. So we're hitting a little bit on what writing can be. And so we're going to try, my goal is to change your perspective. But before we get started, when it comes to the writing process, when it comes to education, your education, whether you've made it all the way through high school and on, you've maybe done 4 to 8 years of college. I don't know what some of your backgrounds are. But whatever it is, when it comes to writing, when it comes to education, what do you know about writing? What are some things? Just, I know it needs to have perfect grammar. I know, like stuff like that.
Right. Well,
Anything.
paragraph spacing.
Okay? What you know.
Right.
So we'll have our K. So paragraphs.
Indentation.
Oh, good.
Nice. Font size.
Okay.
Bigger the font, the better.
No. You are wrong. Just no.
Correct punctuation.
Punctuation.
Stay on topic.
Oh, good.
Oh, that's good.
Everyone topics.
Having your own voice.
Oh, nice. I like that. Any more?
I would say spelling
Spelling?
is
Oh, yeah.
challenging.
Very.
Spell check.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay.
Did anybody say grammar?
Grammar, okay? And
Okay.
then we'll stop there.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you think of writing, these are some things you feel like you know about writing. You need to write in paragraphs, usually. Yes, ma'am.
Should we write this down?
This part you do not. I'll let
Okay.
you know when it's. I'll let you know when you need to start writing.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
just to get us kind of used to each other and me kind of hearing where you're at with this disdainful bleh subject. Oh, I can't move. I hope I'm not too far out of the.
You're
Hey.
fine.
You're good.
Okay.
They can hear you.
Okay,
Just about
good.
it, so.
Okay, so this is what we know. Okay, so now, what would you like to know? You are in here, so you. I don't care if you're brutally honest. What would you like to gain from taking this course?
How to stay on topic.
Okay, so you're back to topic. So now you want to know how to stay on topic. Good. Okay.
Hmm.
How to communicate my thoughts properly.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Anything
It
else?
fits with that, but
Okay, that's-
focused,
Okay.
you know, how to stay focused.
focused.
Yep. I mean, that's a lifelong challenge, to be
Me
honest,
too.
right? But,
Hey, I'm up here and that is my challenge.
yeah.
I just want it to be fun. I just want to learn how to make it
Yeah.
enjoyable.
Engaging.
Like I want to write. It's not something I dread.
Not be so hard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
To become, I don't want to say easy, but for lack of better words.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
How to remove your extreme inner critic. That way you can remove some of the stress.
Oh, good.
That's good. I gotta say shut up devil often. Shut up, devil.
Yeah, not today, devil. No, not today.
I definitely have one here, is to discipline myself to come up with my own thoughts. It's not just plagiarism, but it's easy to take someone else's and just modify it.
Good.
Like, instead of forcing myself to sit down and say, what do I really think? I have thoughts, but to be able to,
Communicate them.
So let me ask you a question about that. So I'm researching, research would be probably something that I would,
Oh, good.
I would look, because I'm researching something like Christian was saying, and I like the thought that I'm getting, and it's feeding me, but I don't want to plagiarize it by writing exactly what's written.
Yeah.
So I formulate it differently in my wording. Is that plagiarism?
Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about that.
yeah.
And so that's good. Those are some of the things that we're going to, I mean, I'm really excited that you guys touched on a lot of the things that are in my notes. Because a lot of the things in my notes are not from a book. They're from resources that I pulled, that I was researching. I will be honest with you, I've never taught adults how to write. For 4 years, I taught junior high kids how to write. And I don't even know where they are now. They might need to come back in here. But I will say, from teaching junior high till knowing I'm going to be giving information to adults and helping you learn something new, hopefully, I can tell you that it doesn't change. The beauty of the English language is, yes, there are 7 million rules in every language, but it's always the same. So it's like math. 2 plus 2 will always be 4. Y-O-U''re always means you are. So it'll never change. So whether you're an 8th grader or an 88-year-old, if you haven't really learned the foundations of writing, you need to. And that's when you'll have fun writing.
Yeah.
So I can say that most likely the majority of people in here who have those negative, blah, boring, those feelings, it's because you really never had a moment in your life where you had an, oh my gosh, I get it. Like, it makes sense to me now. My notes, here we go. So, I had a friend, I was supposed to share this earlier. When I was a senior in high school, I became best friends with a girl who was a grammar Nazi. Well, I'm from the Midwest, and where I'm from in the Midwest is very uneducated. No one uses proper grammar, and I catch myself all the time still even acquiescing and just becoming lazy and talking like I'm back in Port Huron. You can take the girl out of Port Huron, Michigan, but you can't take Port Huron out of the girl. So I go back to some poor grammar. And so one of the things that she would get on my case all the time for, and it drove me insane, when she'd say, "How are you?" "Good." "Well, thank you." And I'd be like, "What?"
So annoying.
"Well, thank
Yep.
you." It is so annoying. Like,
Yeah.
good, I'm good. And so it would make me so mad. But I will tell you to this day, yes, your story about the friends we know of. Yes, I got to be careful in videoing our friends. So that's something that she would get on my case about. She would get on my case. I said ain't all the time. You know, ain't a word, because ain't in the dictionary. I'm pretty sure now it is. But back in 1992, it was not in the dictionary. But she'd always get on my case about saying ain't. So she got on my case about bad grammar. I will tell you what, though. By my freshman year in college, after being with that girl all summer, and then we became dorm mates, my grammar changed significantly. So there is something to be said about being around people and just training yourself. And it's language. It's what we do with our language.
Yeah.
And so now we're going to go ahead and move on into, so really quick, hold on. Let me go back to this. So now the last column is going to be what you learned. We can't fill that column out yet because we haven't learned anything necessarily. I mean, maybe you've learned something. You learned that
You're from Michigan.
I'm from Michigan and I'm a little scatterbrained. But that's something that Taylor already knew, so she put that in the K column. Yes, she would. So anyway, we haven't really learned quite yet what is coming next. So we're at 21 minutes. If I have to stop, I will. Okay, I'm gonna move this thing too. It's kind of in the way of me. I don't want to sit. All right, so we're gonna start with our notes. This is where you might see this stuff again. It is going to be somewhat available online at some point, maybe not before quizzes and stuff. So yes, you want to pay attention. This would be a great time to flex your muscles of note-taking and being able to follow a lecture. Because you might see this again. Yes, Kathleen?
Oh, no, I was saying
Oh.
flex your fingers.
Yes, flex your finger muscles, your typing fingers, whatever you need to do. Okay, so the foundations of writing we're going to start with. Like I said before, this is not going to be your basic, typical class for writing. Today we're going to start with a lot of foundational thinking first, how we think, because we know that we've all heard Andrew Womack say it, what you think about, you bring about.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, those bleh, boring, just know, pain, stress, all of those words that you use to describe the writing process tells me that your thinking about writing is broken, because writing is a really beautiful process. But when you think about it, it gives you the heebie-jeebies, which tells me you don't have good thinking about it. So we're going to change our thinking tonight. We're going to go based on two assumptions about writing. The first one is, writing is a reasonable activity. That's your first assumption. We're going to go based on these assumptions. I believe everyone in this room believes that writing is a reasonable activity. The next one is that writing is a valuable activity. So we're going to base everything we do for the next 4 weeks on these two assumptions. The goal of the first night of this class is to change the way you think of the writing process with these two broad assumptions. I believe that every one of you has a future leading in some capacity, and I know some of you specifically. Your future is to be in front of people speaking and teaching and leading, and you have to know how to communicate well first. Now, it's neat because we'll see in a few minutes, Pastor Matt's over there teaching the art of communication. You're in here learning how to communicate in a specific way. Shanna and the girls that are doing the apprenticeship, Hannah and Taylor and Whitney, they're all working towards preaching in front of mezzanine. To start the process, what is the first thing you have to do?
Right.
Yep, you have to come up with a topic and you have to write your notes down. There are very few pastor teachers out there who are getting up on stage and teaching without at least first getting stuff down in notes on a computer. So the art of communication is great, but before you can learn to communicate well, you have to write. That's all there is to it. You're gonna have to write something. So reasonable and valuable. Let's go. This is set up a little differently than I was expecting. Oh, I thought we already did that one.
No.
All right, writing is a way of growing. Our growth as learners depends on our capacity to understand and use language. So as we know, not everybody thought that writing was a valuable, your stressor points about writing would say you might not think writing is valuable. And I want to go through some things tonight that will change your mind.
So Angela, I have a
Yes,
question.
ma'am.
When you're saying things to write down, are we supposed to be writing down your whole slide?
You
or-
don't necessarily have to.
Okay.
Because it is going to be posted if you need to go back to it. And like I said, I'm really not planning to give you guys a ton of quizzes.
Okay.
I will say this stuff is going to be in a quiz this week, only just to kind of see where you're at with the knowledge, the new knowledge I'm giving you. But it won't be anything crazy difficult. Okay, so it starts out, I'm going to have to use my own notes. This little computer thing's not good for me. So, the next slide, education and a good writer. Your education does have some bearing on how well you write. I would like to not think so, but if you have never gone through, I would say probably 6th to 8th grade, you probably will struggle writing. That doesn't mean there are people out there, we already know, there are young people who they're just geniuses. They could never go to a day in school in their lives, and for some reason they're able to sit down and play the piano, write essays, write novels. But your education does have a little bit to do with it. The system education program generally does not spend a lot of time in writing. I'd like to just, kind of, you don't have to raise your hand or you may want to say what you think, but do you feel when you were in whatever level of school you finished up till this point that you received what you needed to be a good writer?
No.
No? Does anybody feel like they received good information to help them write well?
No.
Okay, I didn't either. I did, when I finally got to a certain point, when I started college, I failed English Composition 101 my first time through. I'm not kidding.
That's hilarious.
I did. I hated it. What did you think?
Said me too.
Yeah. Yes, I just did not like it. I had other things that were priorities to me, and because of the process that the teacher, sitting at the table or her desk, going through these notes, like, good Lord, help us all. I think I went to 2 classes and left and never came back, and I just took the F. But the next semester, wow, this lady who taught us I had one of those moments and I thought, why didn't they teach me this when I was taking AP English? Hello. I passed AP English, but I didn't pass the test that I had to take to get the credit.
Amen.
Because I had
2 times.
no clue how to write a 5-paragraph essay.
Right.
And that's what you have to do on the AP test. And so, honestly, it baffles my mind. So, I did find out kind of the reason why I think this could be a problem. And as believers, I want us, again, I'm going to add a little assumption. You don't have to keep it this and notes or anything, but I'm going to go off the assumption also that we find importance in writing and the value and the reasonableness of it because we're believers, and we're going to build on that.
Yes.
So education, we have 2 forms of education. We have student-centered education, and then we also have God-centered education. So first, we're going to look at this slide. So we have student-centered and God-centered. The first slide we're going to look at is the student-centered version of learning. So we're talking kind of about how your brains work. On the student-centered education system, what do you see here? Like, what do you see going on? And just anything, what do you see?
Looks like all those subjects are attacking the student.
Bombardment, yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's a great perception. I would have not noticed that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the subjects are bombarding the student.
Well, the
But it's-
student's in the middle.
The student's the
Yeah,
center.
they're the center and the focus. Everything's fed into there to be able to
Okay.
feed them.
Everything's feeding the student. The student is the center of the world. Can you see why 12 years through certain systems, schools could cause you to think you're the center of the universe?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard enough even as believers to, Lord, please help me not be self-centered. We know
Yes.
that's what the word tells us. So a student-centered education, this is what all of us most likely, unless you're probably in a certain type of school, maybe home educated, and even in home education, you can be very student-centered. Just like when you're raising a little baby, you can have a baby-led home or you can have a parent-led home. Baby-led home parents are very tired. Parent-led homes, are where baby goes to sleep when mom and dad say so, not when baby cries and
Preach.
Okay? Same with the education
That'll
system.
preach.
Any system, whether, it's home education, public school, private schools, can be student or, the next one, God-centered. So, God-centered education. What do you see in this picture? It's kind of obvious, but what do you see? I wouldn't come up with the bombarding thing.
They all complement each other.
Okay, they all complement each
And
other.
they go out and they come back.
They go out and
So
come
the
back.
arrows go both ways.
Yep, yep, exactly. So if you see in the God-centered, and this is where I'm hoping right now, without, if we've never said another word in this class, you could say, yes. Because even at East Coast Christian University, you could let yourself get into the mindset of being student-centered and not God-centered. All of our subjects are supposed to complement each other. And so when you look at this, you see God in the center. What I love is look what God's doing. Just look what God's doing in this example. He's putting out into all of these subject areas. Because isn't he the creator?
Yes.
So he created all these beautiful subjects. Then they're all giving back to God. So like every single thing we're doing is giving him glory. Even writing. Okay, we're done. Let's go home. If you say you hate it now, you're in trouble. You get an F. Failed. And then again, like Christian brought up, all of these subjects are feeding into each other. So you may have heard even in high school, if you have kids in high school, if you've, whatever, you may have heard at some point teachers talking about cross-curricular. Oh, well, you need to be doing some history in your math class, and you need to be doing some math and history, and teachers get all up in an uproar. How am I supposed to do math and history class? What the heck's that all about? And, well, there really is something to be said about cross-curricular. All the subjects should be feeding into one another, and they all should be taking from the Creator and giving glory to Him. So that is a God-centered education. So I hope that maybe that sparked a little interest in you. So the way we learn, stages of learning, I wanted to talk for a few minutes about this. First, we have 4 stages of learning. The first one is called the primary stage, or what we call the grammar stage. I had a ton of notes on this, but apparently. Let me find my notes, guys. Okay, we have the grammar stage, which starts in elementary school or preschool. We have the secondary stage, which is called dialectic or logic. And yes, you will see this stuff again. And then the third is our post-secondary, which is called rhetoric. So these are 3 stages of learning. If you plug these into any level of education, you're going to find that you fall into these categories. You start out, you kind of get an idea of why they teach you what they teach you at certain points in education. So the grammar stage, the dialectic stage, and the rhetoric stage. We're going to go through each one of these individually, and I'll explain a little more. So the grammar stage, I'm going to click through so you have the whole. All right, so the grammar stage generally takes place during the preschool to elementary ages. So about up until 11 years old. Learning vocabulary and the words of the language are the primary focus during this stage. So remember when you were a little kid and you learned the 50 states by singing a song?
Yeah.
And you may not have remembered it. You may not remember being taught that, but I guarantee most of you in the 4th grade, when you were 10 or 11 years old, your teacher at least attempted to get you to memorize the 50 United States, 50 nifty United States, 13 original colonies. Anybody? I know Kathleen can recall that song. Your daughter knows it by heart. Do you remember hearing it? So you may have done that. You may have been encouraged to memorize your times tables. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. You might remember that. But during this stage, memorization is very valuable. A lot of people in education cry the alarm to having to memorize. They say, that's useless. Rote memorization isn't education. Well, you have to know the words of a language before you can learn about those words. So if you don't know what an elephant is, you're going to have a hard time relating when I say, whew, I ate like an elephant today. Well, on an IQ test, they ask that question. And if a child doesn't know what an elephant is, just by memorizing a picture and a word, they don't even know how to spell it yet. They aren't going to score high on their IQ test at that stage because they should know what an elephant is, if nothing else. And that's some of this is rote memorization. These are the ideas of the grammar stage. This is when you're learning, you're being input with all of these new words. So eventually you will learn them. You already showed me that you went through a grammar stage when it comes to writing, because you told me words that you've heard being used, that you know are used in writing, and you haven't even written anything yet, as far as I'm concerned. Like, you haven't written anything for me yet, but you sure know stuff about writing. This is the grammar stage. That simple. So, some of the things that you do when you're in this stage is you name things. Elephant, computer, coffee. You know, you name things. You attend to things. So you kind of like take care of things, but you don't do much more than that. You memorize, you learn how to express emotion, and you start telling stories. So something may have happened to you in class when you were a little 7-year-old, and you go home and you tell the story about it. But that's all you can do. You can't write it down. You can't give other people's perspectives of what was happening, just your own. So the grammar stage. Then the dialectic and logic stage. Get them all up there. Okay. Generally develops and overlaps starting in junior high school. You guys are going to think this is funny as we learn about this. So during junior high school, you move into the dialectic logic stage. You're thinking, why are you telling me about what I learned in junior high? I promise it's all going to wrap up together very nicely. Using the vocabulary you learned in the grammar stage, you start articulating your thoughts, and you dissect the arguments of others, able to determine bad reasoning. So some of the things, you continue to build new vocabulary in every stage. Just because you're out of the grammar stage doesn't mean you're not going to keep learning new words. But some of the things that happen during this stage, you start to define situations. You start to compare your circumstances. You start to relate to other people's perspectives. You start to give testimony versus just telling a story. And when you give a testimony, you have to kind of give the perception or perspective of other people. It's not done great, but you're starting to come into that. And the last one is you argue. So can I get a witness of anyone who knows someone in the 5th to 9th grade argue?
Yeah,
I mean, really?
love to.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That is when you hear every parent in the universe saying, all my kids want to do is argue about everything they argue about. If we're going to have pizza, they want chop suey if we have. Like, that's that time of life, because this is the dialectic stage. It's the logic stage. It's the stage where parents also struggle with control with their teenagers, because teenagers have now recognized, I can think for myself. Because I told you so is bad reasoning. You know, do you want to hear that as an adult? I don't want to go to my workplace and my boss say, go whatever. Why? Because I said so. Like, that's not a great boss
Exactly.
employee vibe. Maybe once in a while, if you know your boss is in a bad mood, that's fine. But most likely, if your boss treats you like that, you're not going to stick to that job for very long. Dialectic stage. Okay, so then the next stage is called the rhetoric stage. This growth takes place overlapping the secondary stage through the post-secondary years, high school and beyond. So high school through the rest of your life, you grow in the rhetoric stage. You build your ability to speak and to write in order to persuade your audience of truth. Everybody's truth is relative to most people. Now, as believers, we know when we talk about the truth, there's something specific here. When we talk about the truth, there's something specific. So, some of the things that happen during this time, you start to invent. Let's see, coming up with original thoughts. Invent. You start to arrange. You start to communicate your thoughts well. Arrange. Elocution. I will give anybody like $5 if you can tell me what elocution is without looking on your phone. Anybody?
Ready to say it?
I can,
Elocution.
I can infer what it means, but
See
it's
what you
just
think.
gonna be a
Just
guess.
what you think.
Being able to speak eloquently your thoughts.
So good, yes. You are bravo. I don't have $5,
Yeah.
but you got it.
I got chips and
There
sauce
you go,
in
you
here.
got my chips and salsa, like the 50 word. Elocution, yes, that's absolutely right. It's the ability to speak eloquently, to have a reasonable conversation with people where you can understand what is being said. Memory, deliver, persuade, using wisdom. All of these things, and again, I just gave you these words so to kind of conjure up like thoughts of, again, remember, let's keep with our thinking of writing and our two assumptions. Writing is reasonable and writing is valuable. When you plug those two assumptions into all of these learning stages, okay, something's clicking, let's let that click. So, we only have a couple minutes before that bell is gonna sound off, I think. So we're gonna take a few seconds thinking of these stages of learning, and based on your own educational experiences, we'll start it when we get back. What stage do you think, well, can we just throw it out there right now really quick? Okay. Based on your own educational experience, what stage do you think most people probably stop learning or engaging their brains to the next stage of learning? So just thinking about the stages. You have your grammar, dialectic, logic, rhetoric.
Rhetoric? Or
Rhetoric?
no, I would say dialectic.
Dialectic.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what grades did I say that covered through?
Ninth.
Fifth to ninth.
Yeah. So think about that for a few minutes, and take a break. Do you guys want to take the full 15 minutes? Marv said you guys sometimes will decide only to take 10 or maybe wait till the end of class, and it's up to you guys. If you want to take the first group 15 minutes and then we may be getting out of here a little early anyway. This is my first time planning slides and like what to talk about, so I got
You're doing
through
an
a
awesome
few.
job.
I got through a few more than I expected.
Oh,
Is your
yeah.
video rolling still?
Yes.
I
Oh, thank
encourage
you.
that.
I'm gonna help you.